Greetings. Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter.
Hi,
Mark?
welcome to the show. Sit down, be quiet, and learn something.
Beautifully done. Beautifully
Well done,
done.
sir. Well done.
I'm Sean, of course, the man who just told you to sit the hell down. That's KMAN, Kelly, and then we have Rich up in the what is it? Zero takes the square, and Mark. Andor. Let's start with that real quick because I want to get into contrasts here because Kelly definitely has something to talk about as a contrast in effective storytelling. Andor, I want to talk a little bit about that because we had the finale for that. And I've seen some stuff, pop up online now that we got the season complete. Some people who don't like it, a lot of people who do, and very polarizing it seems for a lot of other people. I'm not sure why, but what do you guys think of the finale?
So I'm going to jump in first. My thing here was that I felt like the episode should have been flip-flopped. I liked the end of the episode before the finale. And I felt that that should have been the end of the show. But that's just my particular feeling. I don't hate the show because of it. I don't think it ruined it. It's just my personal opinion on the feel is that I feel that's where it should have left off to set up whatever happens next.
And did you like the finale on its own, though? I mean, just on its own.
I thought it was fine.
Okay.
I still like the program, and I'm still interested to see what happens next. Just general feeling, I just felt like the episode should have been swapped.
Okay. What'd you think, Mark?
Overall, I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel it was as strong as maybe the previous three episodes before it. Right. So, we know what's going to happen to Andor, right? He joins the Resistance and becomes one of their intel guys, and ultimately helps them steal the Death Star plans. No spoilers. So I get that, like, we're setting up to get him full blown into the Resistance. So this whole series, he's not really in the Resistance, a little reluctantly, whatever. And kind of at the end of the episode, everyone's waiting for him to show up at this funeral. Like, everybody, right? The Empire's there, and the Resistance people that want to kill him, and his girlfriend. Everybody's like waiting for him, and he shows up, and he just goes to rescue his girlfriend, which is cool. But I thought it was really kind of dumb how they're like, we're gonna leave this high value prisoner alone with the cook. And everyone else is going to leave so that he could just kind of sneak in. The rest of the series has been done so well that this last episode had a couple of holes in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't really do anything other than just show up. Like, had he not shown up at all, that riot would have happened. That had nothing to do with him at all. You know what I'm saying? So, like, him just kind of showing up, and we're supposed to see how, like, clever he is. He didn't really do anything clever. He hid and like snuck away, and he snuck in, grabbed his girl, and ran away. And then he was smart enough to be like, oh, I saw that guy, he's probably here to kill me, I'm going to sneak into his ship and so that I'll get the drop on him. And then that scene was okay, but again, it felt like a little bit forced. You're really trying to show me how clever this guy is, and yet I didn't really feel that he was acting particularly clever. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Rich, what do you think?
So I'm going to be contrary to both Mark and K-Man, which is usual. I think that catharsis often seems, unless it's done extremely well, seems to fall a little flat. I think the reason why this episode felt a little bit out of sorts is because the pacing had been so slow and quietly developed throughout the entire rest of the series. And they just had one episode, bring it all together. They could easily have done 2 more episodes, and it would have been fine, and it would have maintained that same pace. But the pace had to speed up a little because they needed to close all the ends to get to the next season. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a little heavy-handed in the funeral scene. It seemed a little bit too convenient the way some of the things went down. I did like the fact that Andor is not overly impressive. He's not a superhero. He's kind of an average guy thrust into a bit more average than normal situation, but he has the skills and the performance ability to overcome obstacles that a lot of people would falter on. And I think it was a nice way to show that the Empire is just a bunch of bumbling idiots. They're all at odds with each other, and that's their weakness. Whereas the Rebellion tends to draw itself together and work in tandem with each other. The Empire is cutting each other's throat right and left.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the drone guy kind of having some sort of weird romantic fetishistic relationship with the Imperial agent, but they're all kind of working in their own circles, right? They've all got their own thing that they're after, and they just can't get it together, and it allows the Rebellion breathing room to do what they want to do. But I did really enjoy it, especially the post-credit scene, which was just a nice little stinger at the end.
That's right. And now we know.
Well, we haven't talked about it, but we can if you want to spoil it. But there is a post-credit scene, and but I think the biggest issue was that out of necessity, the pace had to change very rapidly, and it just seemed jarring in between the first 11 episodes and that last episode where they had to tie up all those loose ends because season 2 is coming.
Well, I kind of think that not knowing if you have a second season or any of that, changes a little bit of that too. They wanted to go with the 3-act structure and all of that. I kind of I like the episode. I dug the season altogether. I thought it was very well done. They took a lot of inspiration from historical events. And so the cathartic thing and all of that, they kind of made it much like the entire series. They made it a more grown-up series, but still within the confines of the Star Wars architecture, if you will, so that you don't have complete catharsis. And some of the catharsis, I want to stop saying that because it wasn't for all of it, but culmination of storylines, right, or issues from this season weren't all on the positive. There were a number of them that were actually on the negative too. Like, for instance, one of the things I dug was I thought at the beginning when Mon Mothma does that thing with, her husband, I thought, oh, is that what she meant by, finding a resolution to this thing? And maybe they're going to go this different avenue. Like, she's not going to sell off her daughter. She's going to sacrifice another part of her family, right? Mm-hmm. And then she ended up going that route anyway.
Not so much.
Right.
I loved that scene. By the way, I was like, "Oh, that is awesome!" I was like, really, really digging that.
The thing that's really awesome about it is the daughter seems to be into it. She wants that whole traditional marriage thing to happen, just to slight her mother, who hates it.
Yeah, and that may be the case, but it doesn't change the fact of the impact for Mon Mothma. Especially considering who it is that she's setting her up with. Now, kid may be fine and all that, but still, the father is who the father is, right? So I dug that. I really like that. The messiness of it, the kind of, and maybe she's just covering all her corners, but I thought that was actually pretty cool.
So here's something interesting, just to bring this up. I had read an article couple of days ago that the director apparently does not like Star Wars in terms of the original universe and such like that. And I find that I don't know whether that article is a piece of misdirection or whether they took something he said out of context, because I think he likes Star Wars a lot.
Oh, he loves Star Wars.
Yeah, he's doing exactly what you said he's doing, Sean, which is giving a grown-up, developed spin on it that couldn't have been possible in the 70s or 80s or 90s because you had to have the people age out of the original storytelling.
Well, not just Rich, that. Your audio went a little faint. Like, it sounds like you're far away from the mic for some reason. So just be
I'll move it closer.
That is much better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is that you had Lucas as the gatekeeper up until then, and now you have Disney, which actually has been pretty awful as far as the gatekeeper for most of the stuff they've done. So it was even, it's really shocking that Rogue One and this came out, under that regime,
Snuck them in.
It was really lucky that it was done that way, but we've talked about that. But I thought, overall, I've really enjoyed it. And I think that this is more of a setup for season 2, and season 2 is supposed to be the culmination. I was reading an interview with the director as well, the creator. Oh, what is his name? I can't remember his name now. But the guy who did Rogue One and all of that.
Mhm.
And so season 2, I believe, is supposed to be the culmination. That's supposed to lead right up to Rogue One.
Supposedly,
So
the pace is going
there's
to
only
really
gonna be
pick up.
2 seasons then?
Do what? I'm sorry, Mark.
Is there
What was
only
that?
going to be 2 seasons then?
From my understanding, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
for
my
some reason I
understanding
thought
that.
there was going to be 4, but okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Now, according to the article I read, that's
Okay.
that's what. they
No,
were
I'm
talking
fine
about.
with that. So like they're trying to
And
squeeze excess seasons out when you don't
From-
have to.
From what
And-
I understand, the pace is going to pick up very quickly in the second season.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed
Well,
to
we
be.
saw in the end credit scene how complete the Death Star is, because
Yeah.
in Rogue One we see them fitting that piece into the Death Star that's currently
Yep.
being constructed. So that was a really, in addition to just being a really cool scene, it set the timeline. You know what I'm saying? That like this isn't some plans that were, stealing from the termites on during the Clone Wars. This is this thing's almost done. So
Yeah.
Time's running out. Yeah,
And-
time's running out.
And talking about, being a fan of Star Wars lore and all of that, he's got that very much right. The Death Star was built mostly over Geonosis, and then it moved to different areas like Scarif and all that, moved around a bit as it was being put together. And so a lot of that and the timeline seems pretty good for, all of that stuff. Plus the callback with the Star Destroyer from the last episode with the 3 big radio dishes and all
The
that
aggressor.
Macquarie things and all
Or
that.
arrestor class.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there with that. The rebellion part I thought was kind of cool. The impression I got as I was watching it was kind of like, this seems a little bit like if Martin had written Star Wars, and because it was a lot of inspiration from events in history being kind of nodded in this series, and so taking inspirations from various rebellions and movements and that sort of thing, and putting them into this genre. And one of the things he said in that interview, as a matter of fact, some of the most important people in rebellions are not the ones who are the face of the rebellion or known for it or the father of or the mother of and all that, but actually other people who started it, got it going, then it, culminated and all that. And they got kind of the short shrift from history for that because they really did the most work. And I kind of dig how he's doing that.
So Luthen's going to be unknown. He's going to be the cause, but he's also not going to. He's never been mentioned before, so obviously he's not the face of it.
yeah, and it makes you wonder how the rest of the story is going to play out. Who are these different characters, and what are they? I mean, we all know who Saw Gerrera is, and what his stuff is, and all that. But what's their end between here and there? And Dedra, and what's her end between here and there, and all this stuff. So
yeah.
So even though we know the end point for a number of these characters, there's a lot of other ones we don't. And I'm personally interested in finding out, where do they go? How do they fit in?
Yeah.
So I liked it. I thought it was you're right, Mark. It wasn't as exciting for me anyway as the episode previous. I really liked that battle with Luthen against the Star Destroyer and all that. That was really cool. That character's been awesome. The monologue he had with that dude in the elevator and all those things. But I thought that this was more of a setup for season 2.
Agreed. And I think it was well done, because if there was no season 2, it's fine. Like, they've tied it all up into a bow, because at the end of this season, we know that Andor is like, hey, let me in. I want to be part of this rebellion, presumably to honor his mother and these kind of things. And he's seen how evil the Empire is. And so we've given him motivation. Whereas for the beginning of it, he was just like some kind of loser scammer guy who, can shoot a cop in the face when it needs to be done. Right. He's a little ruthless, but he's not like a good guy, or he's not like, a hardcore anti-Empire zealot or anything. And so he's grown to this position. Like, if it just ended there, we're like, okay, I could go right into Rogue One and that whole, I've been in this fight since I was 5 years old. doesn't quite ring true yet, but you know what I'm saying. Like that's the only thing that.
If the
Well,
story
I
wasn't
think-
told, you wouldn't miss anything. You wouldn't
Right,
miss
right.
it, you know.
Well, I think he's talking about because he was part of that tribe of kids, you know.
Yeah, I get it, but there's a lot between 5 and 30,
Yeah.
or however old he is right now, that wasn't fighting the Empire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe you stole some stuff from him, but
Well, I understand what they were doing with that. He was trying to compress a lot of things. And the impression I got was, like you said, Mark, he's not a fanatic on that stuff, really, more self-interested. But the mother, or the adopted mother, seems to have been the source of inspiration for him. And the source of inspiration for her was her husband getting gunned down, and strung up and all that. And so it's just kind of I like that aspect of it, where it's the ripples through time, the scars of the father and the mother being passed on to the son and all that. I dig that. And then of course the line ends because they get blown up on Scarif.
of course. Now I really enjoy the world building.
Yeah.
The fact that this funeral revolves around a brick, and they're
Yeah.
going to take this brick and continue to build. Like it felt a shade of 40K in there. You know what I mean? And it was neat that he went to his father's brick. At least I assume that's the one he went to when he had the little flashback
Yeah.
and everything. Like I really like, and that has nothing to do with Star Wars specifically. That's just, this is a universe with all these different planets and all these different cultures. And this is kind of this the little George R. R. Martin, we're going to pick this out of a neat little cultural thing that was really neat. I enjoyed that. So
I thought
Yeah,
the
I
brick
like
was
that
overly
too.
dramatic.
Oh, really dramatic. Yeah, but and then
I
he
mean,
got
like-
to beat up some of the Imperial guys and kill them with her brick.
But I'm saying, like, what if you don't have
Catharsis.
anything to
Just
build?
like
What do you do with the
Ewoks.
brick?
Yeah.
What would you?
What Kelly?
What if you don't have anything to build? What are you doing with the bricks? People don't die fast enough.
You
You want
paved
them
the
to die at an
road.
appropriate rate, but you don't want them to die too
You're
fast.
not-
Well,
thinking
there's
industrial.
special bricks.
Not
Each
everyone
brick
gets a brick.
is.
You have to be
Yeah.
to be a prominent citizen to get a brick. I mean, we
Now-
wouldn't get bricks, but
I would
just so you guys know, at Disney World, I know this for a fact, you can, or at least in the past, you could, if you lost a loved one, you could have a flagstone put into the ground outside of Disney World that had their name and their time of death and stuff inscribed, and it was laid into the ground. So I don't know if that had anything to do with this whole bricking thing, but that's actually something that happens, at Disney World.
Oh, I'm
I don't know if
sure-
they do it at Disneyland. So
I could do it at Pioneer Courthouse Square in Portland. I can just go pay for a brick and have my name put in Pioneer Courthouse Square.
Oh yeah.
hmm
What would you have Kelly made into? We would cremate Kelly and make him into what?
A urinal.
No.
I'd taxidermy him with his arm out and hang towels on it.
That would be funny.
I would combine him with an animal and just put his head on an animal's body.
That would be funny, Kelly, to have a urinal with it like a photo of you in there.
It's in the back of the urinal.
Open mouth.
Smiling. That would have been great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But yeah,
That's a segue.
I like that. So, and some of the people I've listened to, like Star Wars theory. Well, I didn't listen to him, but I heard his comment on it. He was upset about things like when you saw the camera on the wall, the security camera,
Yeah.
you could see the screws, or the guns all looked, like actual guns and all that. But I'm thinking to myself, well,
I didn't notice any of that.
yeah, I'm thinking to myself, well, the camera looked like the exact same one that was on the Death Star in the first
In
one.
the original
when they
stuff,
shot
security
it.
camera, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
why
the
they shot
guns-
it.
And the
Yeah.
guns looking like guns, they always did.
How dare they?
I'm looking
Now
at
I will
Star
say that
Wars, the original
when
one.
that AK-47 looked too much like an AK-47.
Right?
The one
I
time-
know.
The one time it like
totally.
totally took me out of the moment. I was like, "Come on, guys, you could do better." It's Star Wars,
But
make it
like I
better.
told you, for me, it never bothered me because I've always
Well-
seen stormtroopers walking around with Sterlings. I've always seen Han
yeah,
Solo.
but they're
using
Sterling with windshield wiper
Using a
blades
Mauser,
glued
broom-handled
onto the end.
Mauser.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, he's using a broom handle Mauser.
Broom handle
with-
Mauser, right? Yeah.
Right.
With a
Yeah.
flash bulb on the end.
No, he's using a broom handle with the flash suppressor.
Yeah.
Flash suppressor. Yeah.
Right, from an M1 carbine. And even the lightsaber Luke was using was the photo
But you guys, the photo bowl
cam,
flash. But you guys are making a
know.
point. They dressed up the gun to where it didn't look like the one before. There was nothing changed about that AK other than a short magazine. Don't try to pull that rock.
If you were not a gun nerd,
wink
you
at
would
me.
know. No, I'm kind of agree with you know what? Screw you. Your point is wrong.
No, I'm talking to Sean, not
Thank
you.
you,
Sean was throwing his eyebrow up like he was like I'm saying something.
Kelly's got the right of it. Kelly's got the right of it. Screw you, Mark.
Kelly, you have the floor. You have the floor, Kelly.
You take an MG42 and take the stock off of the foregrip off of it, and suddenly that's space weapons. You know, I mean, come on, you know. And STG
looks great on Hoth as a heavy blaster.
Here, hold this World War II STG-44. We'll take the magazine out. Now it's a space gun. There you go. You know,
the trick is you got to paint it black.
Complaining about that. That's come on, man. You know, either you don't know much about guns or you're just I don't know.
I agree with Mark. Actually, the AK-47 was if I could go back and change something, I would change that out of the show.
They'll digital it in.
How many AR-15s were in Andor? There were several AR-15s in there that they
the Rebels when they drop shipped. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They messed those up enough that I was like, I know what they are, but they changed it enough that I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, you're doing a Star Wars thing to it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
and it was lazy, and they should repent.
What I'm saying,
they don't have any budget, buddy.
You knew what they were. You just were able to look past it. It's not because they dressed it up enough that you
because they tried. They were like, we're going to take this gun and make it look different. They didn't try with that AK. You're not going to win this argument. They were like, here's an AK.
I don't know. I was so immersed in the story, I didn't even notice. I think you guys are.
That story was so slow and its pacing that I had no choice but out of boredom.
Not in the last episode.
At all the details.
In the last episode,
you get on with this. This feels like
it was positively Barry Allen speed in the last episode compared to the first 11. I mean, come on. You know, that thing was flying.
I mean, the AK was in like episode 2 or something. That's what I'm talking about.
I know, and we're still talking about it.
I know.
That's how
I don't know why. There's a lot of other better stuff.
Had that props master just done his freaking job?
For me, what I'm saying is that for me, that never took me out of it because I've always had that same that same look at it, which is okay. They're using this. All right, they're using that. All right, and I'm moving past it. Let's get going. You know, the time where it actually got different was in the prequels, where they started designing stuff just from the ground up to look like what it was. You know.
Yeah.
And they had a few of them like that in this, like that gun, that kind of a mishmash of things, but that Blade Runner-esque kind of gun that Andor was using in that last episode.
Yeah, his pistol, the one that he stole. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that was
generally cool. That kind of thing doesn't bug me. And if that's what puts you off of the show, I'm like, well, what have you been watching? Because that's always been Star Wars. Star Wars has always been a mishmash of cool effects.
No,
and
you're intentionally missing my point.
No, I'm intentionally demeaning your point.
They dress up their real life guns. They always do it. They take the real guns. They mess them up a little bit.
It's just sad, Mark. It's sad.
And the AK, they didn't do anything. They're like, let's put a short magazine in it. They're done. Somebody's phoning it in, and I'm angry about it, and it's ruined the entire series for me. I'm boycotting Star Wars.
Well, they might be phoning it in, but they didn't shoot anyone in the face, so that's good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So speaking of which, right before we got on, I was watching a video. I'm sure you guys have heard that they brought Iger back to be the head of Disney.
Oh yeah,
they're firing the other guy right after they renewed his contract. Chapek. And one of the rumors is, and grain of salt, all that nonsense, is that part of what Iger has said is part of the, I'll come back if this, and this is that Kathleen Kennedy is going to be out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll believe it when that.
Rumor. I don't know. I'd be happy with it. I'm not sure about Iger because remember, Iger was in charge for a lot of.
He was the one who started all this woke garbage.
You know what I mean? So,
see, that's the thing. I don't know how much I actually blame Kathleen Kennedy. She was there from the beginning. She was actually part of the whole thing from the beginning. And she is actually
right, so was Lucas. Look what he did later on in his career.
No. I get it. What I'm saying is that my point is She's been there from the beginning, so all the good stuff and the bad stuff has been under her watch. So I don't know what their metric is for discerning if something is good or not. And I'm not sure that
It's not the same as yours.
Yeah,
I
money,
guarantee
right?
it's not the same as yours.
No, yeah, but I mean, I don't know, because she was the one who approved the whole, Rogue One and Darth Vader scene at the end of that, and all that.
No,
Well,
no, no,
So-
no.
who gets the blame for the sequel trilogy? That's the real question, because that
Yeah.
was
Well,
that
but
was
then-
like, hey man, your show being not quite landing like we want. Okay, whatever. But let's be honest,
She was
it is
also the one-
sequel trilogy that really screwed up Star Wars.
Yeah,
She was
no, I
also the
get
one
it.
that Favreau had to sneak Luke Skywalker in because she hated him so badly and wanted him to be destroyed at the end of the sequel trilogy.
Look. I get that everybody hates her and all that, and maybe she's
I
awful.
don't hate her.
What I'm saying is that
think
I
she's a
don't know
Poor steward.
that I don't know that any one of these people being replaced or brought back is going to make it better, because I don't
I
know
agree.
what sort of metric they used to do this stuff anyway. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it seems to me Star Wars has always been one of those things that's been cool in spite of the
Yeah.
people who
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been
yeah.
making it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
so
And
cool-
and
it's
again,
got-
as far as Iger coming in, and I was talking to somebody about work about this when they made that announcement. There's two metrics. Number one is stock price, right? Disney's like, oh my god, our
Yeah.
stock price is way down, our business is taking a hit across not Star Wars. We have movies, television, cruises, theme parks, all of the stuff that Disney is into. All that is reflected in the share price, which is down 70% or some stupid amount of money. And so like that might be why they fired the guy. Like this might have nothing to do with Star Wars specifically, and this might be like, wow, this guy's doing a terrible job. Let's bring back the guy who had a share price that was one we were all happy about. And then there's, which is the business, and then there's the franchise, the Star Wars, the whatever.
but now
I
there's
don't know how related
accusations.
they are, or even if they're related at this point.
Yeah, I
You know?
don't
Now
know.
there's accusations about them lying about their numbers when the share price was high. The share price is all based upon investor confidence, right? So if the investors are confident in the value of what you're selling, they're going to invest in your property. And there's now talk that they were artificially inflating, say for the numbers that they were claiming, saying that there were 30 million people watching per evening. They were counting each person 3 times because they were counting each person as a Disney customer, an ESPN customer, and a Hulu customer, because they owned all 3. And when you signed up for their triple play, you were counted as one customer for each. So they were tripling their numbers artificially. That's the rumor that's being passed around.
Yeah, no.
As far as like they've been inflating their numbers for decades.
But they're not. Let's say they are. Let's say all
Yeah.
the rumors are true and that they are.
Yeah.
Every single company out there does that. Every
Absolutely.
organization does that. That's
Yeah.
like par for the course.
Absolutely.
By the way, on a related note, Speak Nerd and Enter now has 6 billion subscribers
Awesome.
here on YouTube.
We should get a sponsor. We should get a sponsor.
High.
Should be Disney.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's say, yeah, you hear that, Kathleen? Let's sponsor us. We're great.
But I don't see. My point is that I don't see Disney as any different than any of the other organizations in Hollywood or any of the
No.
creative ones or any of that.
They're
It
just the
seems like-
biggest.
it seems like everything that comes out, the majority of it is meh. There's a larger percentage, say, than should be, that is awful. And there's a very small percentage that is, wow, that's awesome. Where'd that come from? And it just seems like that's how we are. And I don't know that this is any different, or that any of this maneuvering is going to make a difference. It's kind of like who's sitting on the Iron Throne or any of that. Most of the people on the ground really don't care.
Yeah.
They
just want to make a paycheck and make a living and do what they do, and that's it.
Yeah. I would hope that it's going to be, maybe it'll be good, but lifetime of experience has shown me it's not.
Probably not.
Probably
not.
Right. Right.
But Mark, I liked your comment, by the way, because I was thinking that earlier too. I thought, oh, you know why I think I like this so much? It's got a little shade of that 40K in it, where it's just, I dig that. So anyway, now, Kelly.
What?
Kelly, you spent this week ostensibly looking at some stuff you hadn't seen before. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know for those who may be listening or watching, maybe we've talked about some of this, maybe we've gone over some of this.
Our
But
fan.
my intrigue with this is Kelly's take on this, because Kelly is cynical, as most people know. And so I'm sure some of the things he saw perhaps surprised him with goodness. But more importantly, I'm sure a number of them burrowed into his flesh like a thorn, a poisonous thorn, straight to his heart, that just pissed him off. What was it that you saw that did that to you?
The Terminal List.
Which one? Well, awesome or bad?
I'm okay. So the Terminal List started out interesting. It had a story that I was interested in hearing about, and then it went significantly off the rails somewhere around episode 6, maybe 5.
Okay. What did you like? What didn't you like? What are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts.
Okay. The good parts of Terminal List is that Navy SEALs are in fact real. There is a United States. There is a city in the United States called San Francisco.
That's true.
The FBI is real, and beyond that, pretty much everything else I had problems with. Almost everything else I had problems with.
It's impressive.
Let me ask you something, because when Mark was watching this, I watched the whole thing. I think I watched the whole thing first, and then Mark, you watched it.
Yeah,
is that right?
So yeah.
And I told Mark, I said, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts, and something about, if I don't know, I was interested in your thoughts, and if you'd think of me as you were watching it. And Mark came back and said, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and all that. I don't know if you're familiar with my theory, Kelly, on when you're watching movies and stuff like this, or shows or stories like this.
Well, the first person that attempts to be helpful is actually the bad guy.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah. So anyway, what are your thoughts then? Go ahead.
And where to begin? I mean, I'm going to start number one with his haircut. That was the most distracting thing of the entire bloody show.
That's not where I thought you were going to start.
That haircut was the fucking worst.
Wow, and you guys are giving me a hard time about noticing an AK-47, huh?
I couldn't get past it. I mean, he didn't look like the character. I mean, he looked like he was in a different show altogether. He looked like somebody who was an understudy that they brought in and said, "Okay, Jim, quick, get on set. You've got to deliver some lines." And he skipped hair and makeup and he went in with how he typically looks, and it was distracting. It really was. He had crazy eyes throughout the entire show, which I kind of like. I was okay with at first because of the concussion thing, because of the post-traumatic stress, which are very real issues. We're not going to debate that. And so I'm like, okay, the dude's.
I'll debate it. I'll debate the hell out of it.
Sack up and be a man. But no, I mean, I got part of that, and that's where I was really into the show. I was like, okay, hey, they're digging into this thing about post-traumatic stress, which is a very big issue, very important issue. And then it went off. I mean, because initially what I was thinking with the show, there was another movie, and I can't remember the bloody name of it, that followed this guy's sort of descent into madness with his schizophrenia. He saw aliens everywhere and there weren't any. And, but the whole movie was like, well, are they or aren't they? Is he truly crazy or is he not? And
the guy with the sunglasses? The guy with the sunglasses? He wears sunglasses in the house?
Your mic is
Rich, your mic is doing the same thing again. Stop messing with your mic, Rich.
That might be the one, Rich. But, there was elements of that to this that I was really intrigued by, of the idea, okay, did he really fight the people in the MRI room?
Right.
Did he kill his family? Those were interesting to me. And then when
that up till that scene, I was like, is what's happening really going on or not?
Right.
But the second he got attacked in the MRI room is when I knew something was real. You know what I mean? Because up until that point, it could have been this delusion. It could have been a thing. Two guys attacking you at the doctor's office and you actually having to kill one or two of them. I was like, okay, there is something going on. Now it's a cover up. They did a great job up until that point of having me wonder, like, is this in his head? Is there something going on? Like, I appreciated that. But at that point, they gave up on that storyline. You know what I'm saying? Like, that storyline is now done.
Yeah.
Left turn. Now we're going after some bad guys in a conspiracy, right?
Yeah. Hard left turn. I didn't buy into his trusting the reporter. I know people trust reporters. I always think that it's a very iffy thing to do that.
No, she
Because
was
what
hot, so therefore
I
trustworthy.
don't think he trusted her at all. I just think he needed her to get to as a means to an end. I think you're misconstruing that. I don't think he actually trusted her one bit.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think this is going to sound conceited, but I remember when I had that interview with that author,
Yeah.
Dan Baum, over at NRA, and I remember I went into that not knowing what to do with him and unsure. Obviously you would be, because they're trying to make a name for themselves. They're writing a book, and all that. But I ended up actually trusting that dude quite a bit, and turned out pretty good. The guy was actually very trustworthy, even though we were on opposite sides on a lot of things, or a number of things. He was a very trustworthy and honorable fellow. So I could see the character doing that, but like you and Mark, this was my impression. See if you, in a nutshell, see if this rings true for you. I felt like the action and the actual tactical side of it was like it was written by a Navy SEAL, right? The storyline was like it was written by an actual Navy SEAL. That's how it came across to me.
Right.
It was like
it assumes everything goes well, but here's my problem, and I think this has been mentioned before. This mystique that's built up around the Navy SEALs is somehow they're superhuman, and that's not right. And I feel that sort of that message came through so many times in this series. I mean, it was really I was really put off by it. I was like, oh my, for the love of God, that would not have worked. Right. And there's just like, no, Navy SEAls are awesome. Like, I'm here 1 second and then gone the next. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're just over there. Everybody light up the forest. He's right there. So there's that. I'm just going to pick through some things, because I just wrote down some issues here. When he's in the hillside trying to get away from the HRT. Number one, I'm debating the usage of the HRT here, because one of the podcasts I follow is Retired FBI Case File Review, where they bring in, these FBI agents who've since retired, and they talk through their cases, and they talk through the politics of how the agency works. And it's really interesting. And so as soon as they called in the HRT, I was like, wait a minute.
Send me that podcast. I'd like to listen. That sounds really interesting. So
it is.
Send me info on that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And so, anyhow, that part where he's climbing across the hillside trying to get away, but then his hand starts to freak out and he falls. And he falls. He clips a rock really bloody hard with his hip, his leg, something, and then tumbles down on the ground and gets up and walks away. At that, I was like, okay, I'm only watching this now to see what other incredible BS they now present for me to digest as a show, because there's no way that would bloody work. He will have broken
rewarded
something.
with him dropping a mountain on an FBI agent and saving her.
Oh my God, the mudslide. What the F was that? Okay, so suddenly the Navy SEALs are not only impervious to all pain and damage, they're able to hit everything from 5 miles away with a 9mm. And now suddenly he's a bloody master geologist that understands exactly what this mountainside is ready to do, and how to blow it up with the det cord and the charges he has to suddenly thwart the FBI. And I'm like, this is total BS.
No, it's not. SEALs are experts at sea, air, and land. Mud is a combination of both sea and land.
I think you're forgetting something. On the spine of this book, it says fiction. It's a story. What? It's supposed to be fiction. Right, you can't judge it. You can't judge it. You can't judge it on the basis of reality. It's not meant to be
No.
No, you can. You can, but it's not meant to be realistic.
But that was supposed to be the point of him writing it. Was that
if you're Tom Clancy, insurance salesman, which is what he was, right? And you write, Rainbow Six and some things like that. We all understand Tom Clancy never did that. He interviewed people who did that kind of thing and drove submarines and flew, helicopters and stuff. And he wrote a very believable depiction of whatever he didn't put himself forward as, I lived this, and here's a fictionalized tale of all the things I did behind enemy lines with a knife between my teeth.
He did the exact. So the only judge, but before. Okay, I'm going to give you an example.
I
And this
get
is
it.
someone
He's a
you.
friend of yours. You love him.
No,
and we can't
no,
say
he's not a
anything
friend.
bad
He's
about
not a
his
friend of
book.
mine. I don't know the man at all. But I will say, you and I both met the guy that started all this, Richard
Yeah, Dick
Marcinko.
Marchenko. Yeah.
Yes, we met. We both met him,
Well, I
and
was there too.
he was. Yeah, you were. You were actually there. Yeah, we all
I
met
wasn't.
him. So yeah, we all met him, and the fact is, all of this mystique, all of this. Before it was Mac Bolan. Mac Bolan was a completely cartoon character, right? But until then,
I
people
thought
who
those were
had
from the
actual
history section.
yes, on the supermarket shelf for $1.50.
Yeah.
So but the people that had actual experience in this stuff, they were consulted by those guys. They may have talked to one of them, but they weren't those guys. When Dick Marcinko came along, he wrote his original book, Rogue Warrior,
Yeah.
which was a nonfiction account, which was cool, but it wasn't as exciting as some of his fictionalized novels which came after, which Jack Carr is putting things in exactly the same vein. It's the same tradition of Dick Marcinko. Now, the fact is, this got a major, very successful television show off the ground for someone who 10 years ago would never have happened.
Right.
It would
So
never
serious
happen.
question. I have not read the book. I'm assuming you have since you have it there, or is that
Mhm.
just to make us
No,
think
it's not.
that
It's not.
you know how to
It's
read
not
or
just.
what?
No, it's
Okay,
not
so
just.
you've
It's
actually
not
read
just.
the book. Got it. All right.
Yes, I've
So
read the book.
does he drop a mountain on an FBI agent in the book? And is it as ridiculously
It's not
plausible
the.
as it
It's
was
not
in the
the
show?
same. No, it's not the same. It's less dramatic. Okay?
And how they both
It's
survived is beyond me.
well
It's the
because
power of love.
it's television. Because I'm telling you, it's television.
The
I
fifth
mean,
element.
For the
they're
remainder, for the remainder of my review, Rich, you are going to have to understand that I inject a healthy dose of reality into anything I
I
watch.
agree.
Well,
No,
see,
Which is
that's
why I don't
exactly
watch
what
many
you
things.
that's exactly what you're looking for in this.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for is when you see something as, oh, okay, here's a Navy SEAL who's writing it because he was tired of seeing all the fictional, nonsense that they put in with all the Michael Bay explosions and all that.
Mhm.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
make something that's more realistic. And then you get some sort of A-team kind of, storyline that goes
Yeah.
along with it. You're kind of bummed
Hey,
out.
A-Team would have been perfect if BA had shown up when that mountainside
Yeah.
dropped down and they drove off in the van.
Yeah.
That would have been kick-ass.
Rich, you and I, and Mark, I think you've met a couple of them, have known a number of Navy SEALs. I've trained with and trained a few of them and that sort of thing. They are, by and large, great people. The thing that makes them different, like Kelly said, they're not ninjas. They're none of that.
No.
What the one thing that, well, Payana was actually, if you're going to say there's one guy who was like the mythic
They're in there,
idea,
but you don't know about them.
well, if there was one who was close to that mythic type, it was Payana. But by and large, they're human beings, regular human beings. The thing that makes them different is the ability to endure. That's
Yes.
it. Doesn't mean they get, don't get broken, don't get shot, don't die, all that stuff. It just means they're very mission focused and able to endure a lot of nonsense, to be able to get it done. That's it. That's what it is. To me, that makes them more interesting than if they're Jedi running out there doing their
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
This makes
I
them
hear you.
more interesting to me.
Well,
So when I saw
Right.
this, I was like,
Go ahead. Yeah, but I don't begrudge Navy SEALs or any other, group their esprit de corps and their legends and their like,
Ooh,
like when
esprit de
they
corps.
show up, you want
Big
like that's part of the
Get
kind
me
of this
some bread and
mystique of
cheese.
Navy SEAL, like SEAL Team 6. They chose the number 6 because they wanted it to sound like there were more than one team.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's like, there's like 6 or 7 of the teams when there was really only one. Right. So part of that legend is like, puffing up what this service can do. And I don't mean that in a denigrating way at all. Like, the Navy SEALs are so literally some of the best, fighting units in the world. I put them up against anyone. But part of that is also the PsyOps aspect of it. Like if you're like, oh my God, did you hear the Coast Guard invaded? Oh no, versus, oh man, they just dropped some Navy SEALs on this guy.
Yeah.
It hits a little different. So
it does hit different. But everything from that mudslide on, maybe even before, Like the whole takedown of that guy in San Francisco with the EFP,
Yeah,
right?
right in front of the office building,
Right in front of the office
in
building.
the street.
On the streets of San Francisco, which were oddly vacant. It was like a plague had come through and 90% of San Francisco had died. If that thing
Yeah.
had gone off, it would have killed so many people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, that never would have worked. And the villain, that guy, that corporate guy, oh, that was so frustrating. The bad guy is going to be a guy who's a wannabe SEAL and, all this stuff. And of course he's evil. And, it's like, come on, man. Give me some of the writing level that goes with, like, some of the Bourne Supremacy stuff and all of that. Throw that in with the tactical knowledge and accuracy with a lot of the weapons handling and stuff from that. I'm a happy camper. But if you give me, like 9 on one scale of that, or one side of that scale, and then a 2 over here on the other, it's just going to serve to upset me, or, like Mark said, take me out of the moment.
Right.
And that's kind of what
like
happened.
I'll contrast that with that movie Act of Valor, where all the actors in it were actually Navy SEAls.
Fantastic.
The things they were doing in there were plausible, right?
Yeah.
like nothing in that whole movie was, oh, that would never happen.
Right.
In fact, I guarantee you most of that stuff did happen in some, I'm sure they picked and chose and picked a lot of random
one where
things.
they sniped the guy and then lowered him into the water.
Yes. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, now the acting was terrible. Right, but I completely forgave it because none of them were actors.
Right,
and
exactly.
in fact, it would have been worse had they stuck one famous guy in there who was a good actor. Like Michael Ironside as Lieutenant Colonel, blah blah blah. No, get him out of there. I don't need
that.
So let me just make a note about the novel. So the novel is approximately 440 pages.
Too long.
And the last 20 of it, but
approximately. Just look at the number at the back. That's
it's exactly, the actual text is exactly 443 pages.
Okay.
The back half of the book is a glossary of terms and acknowledgments.
Good.
Each chapter in the book is on average 3 pages long. And there's about 40 some pages. There's 40 some more than that. There's 60, 70, 75 chapters.
Right.
But each one is 3 pages long. What was added to the show to make it a televised production? There's a huge amount of stuff that was added. And I think, Kelly, that's the stuff, because this is a very quick, like, each chapter is a quick clip. You read it, it's gone. It's gone. It's very much like somebody who wrote their first book coming out of the military would write. It's like, here's 3 pages. I can't stand anymore. Next 3 pages more. Yeah. That's enough. Next chapter. And it moves at that clip, which is what I think made it popular. But I think in order to make it, because he's on book 5 now, I think, in order to make it something that they could sell to a producer, which is who you have to sell it to, they padded it out. They padded it out a lot, and I think that's the stuff that you're running into. Unlike Act of Valor, where it was very much like bang, 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 scene, low dialogue, high movement, very.
Well, that was a recruiting poster for the Navy SEAls.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time,
but a more realistic one.
But see, that's
right. It was a very realistic film, but it wasn't as interesting dramatically.
This isn't anything like the movie.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a fair point, Rich, and I would say that's where most of my criticisms lie, is in the filler between any action, because I think the action, the action in the show itself, how he would have gone through and cleared a room, or when they went in to take down the Sicarios, all of that, I didn't really have a big, or the killing of the bad Sicario guy that killed his family. That was ridiculous. I'll say that.
Yes,
but everything leading up to that was like, I was like, okay, I get it. Sure, I'll give you that. But it was all this other filler. Like, one of the things, because my background is international trade regulation, and I understand export-import laws in numerous countries of the world, when he got on that flight to take that flight to Mexico to go kill the Sicario and then came back to the U.S., I was like, okay, that would never happen. That's just absolute horse crap. He would have been arrested. He's sitting in a federal prison right now.
Why they
Show
didn't know it
ends.
was him?
Oh, please. All right. Enough with you.
He
I got
killed
problems with your
everybody.
commentary.
They didn't know it was him. I could go to Mexico and kill some
like-
Sicarios and come back. They're gonna be like,
No,
look at this guy. There's no way he
It's
killed
not
anyone.
about the killing of the
Right,
Sicario.
it's a
It's
famous
about the fact that she would have had to file a flight plan to go to Mexico. So they would have said, okay, she went to Mexico, she came back, because the timeline of the show is kind of nebulous for me. I don't know exactly how long he was in Mexico, but he
30
didn't have a
years.
lot of time.
30 years.
3 years.
Well,
Yeah,
let's not even get started on the.
It does get a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
does
well,
get a little soft around the
he has
time,
a private
yeah.
air force, and he has his own private army that is
Right.
willing to go out and do wet work on his behalf. I was like, man, it's good. It's good to have friends in high places.
Right. And the killing of the Sicario was just one of the most ridiculous things I've seen. The next most ridiculous thing was the fact that 2 FBI
Rambo.
agents are looking for this guy in San Francisco and running through traffic. She gets on the walkie-talkie at some point and calls for the SWAT team and then says, "I'm not kidding." I mean, no, I know after having listened to numerous FBI agents talk about this, all of that would have been planned out. This is like the worst FBI action ever undertaken. I mean, so by and large, on the PTSD bit, on the the concussions and the effects of all of that, I think those are important storylines to deal with. I think those are very germane to what we're all seeing in the country today and what service members are having to deal with, which is horrible. And then when it took that left turn and just went to crazy town, I purely just watched to see just exactly how crazy it would get. And I felt largely let down by the show at that point.
Did you watch anything this week that you enjoyed?
I did. Cabin in the Woods, which I actually think I saw before.
Oh, fantastic film. Great
Yeah,
movie.
I actually thought I saw that
so
before,
to
but it's
set
been a
this
long
up,
time.
Kelly asked us about for like a list of
Yep.
things we recommended, and so I put some older stuff on the list, not knowing what he'd seen. And Cabin in the Woods was one of those. Like, if you're gonna watch a horror movie, I think that's one of the best ones. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, no, but Cabin in the Woods was great. I like that. Like Chris Hemsworth dies somewhere in the middle. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it. I was like, yeah, good, die, get out of there.
By driving a motorcycle into a force field.
Right, and then he just sort of rolls down the force. It was brilliant. Love that. I watched The Northman, which I thought was intriguing. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of how they shot the film, but the story was fine the way it was.
It was very dreamscape, like kind of Viking saga-esque. It was not meant to be taken 100% reality. It was supposed to be always that dream factor in it. You know what I mean?
Well, achieved.
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I like the fight scenes in that. Those were pretty cool.
I'm glad you watched it. Did you watch The Endless?
I did not watch that yet. I've still got 2 more days off.
Nice. Well,
I'm glad you watched Cabin in the Woods.
Train to Busan.
Did you really?
Train to Busan.
I did. Like my wife was out doing something. I was like, I'm in the mood for something, and I was like, oh, you know what?
You haven't seen that?
I had not seen that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. For what it was this little zombie romp. We're trapped on a train or whatever. Like, yeah, it was a good time. I especially loved it when all the big gob of them were hanging off the back of the train and getting dragged, and I was like, there was some cool little visual things. I was like, I hadn't really seen them do something like that before, and it was a fun time.
And you talk about good acting. They had that. I'll tell you what, that little girl in there, the daughter, she was amazing. That end bit where she's just losing her mind over her dad and all that stuff. That was great.
It was
amazing.
Kelly, did you watch The Raid?
Hang on a second. I'm not done with Train to Busan.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. I got one more thing to hit.
Yeah. You hold your dang horses.
All right. Was there anything else on the Train to Busan?
Train to Busan had one of my favorite characters in there, which was the dude from Eternals. I can't remember his name. The big guy.
Right. The big dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved his character. All around good, character arcs and that sort of thing. Really good. Very Korean as far as cinema and all of that. Loved his character. His character was awesome. I loved how practical he was, and just, that was great storytelling. Sadly, from what I understand, the second one is not as good or any of that, so I won't waste time with that. let's just stay with the gem that was there, the good one, and that was amazing. Lightning in a bottle. But that dude, when he wrapped his forearms up and went in there and started, beating the piss out of the zombies and did the Vader thing, throwing the dude up on the ceiling and all that. That was great. Just really good movie. Enjoyed that one a lot.
Has anybody seen the follow-on to Train to Busan? There was a
well, that's what I'm saying, is that from what I've heard, I did not see it because I heard it was not nearly as good.
Yeah, I heard that from a friend of mine who's into horror movies, and she said don't even.
Yeah, so that's why I say I stopped at the first one, and let's just keep it pristine.
Okay. Yes, I did enjoy that quite a bit.
That's awesome. I didn't know you hadn't seen that, Mark.
And out of your list, Mark, I also watched The Hangover.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. I remember seeing that in the theater.
Very funny movie.
And it was like Airplane. Like the first time I'd seen Airplane, it hurt. I was laughing so much. And so then I watched that movie, and it hurt. I was laughing so much. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie was just, it was just hitting. You know what I mean? And it's one of those ones that, if you haven't seen it, it's worth it. And the follow-ons are fine, but they're not as good as the first.
Oh yeah.
Right. That lightning in a bottle, Train to Busan thing. Interestingly enough, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but I'm just going to bring this up real quick, just as because I remember this point was a turning point, right, in cinema. When that came out, I saw it when it came out in the theater too. When it first came out, when I saw it again, it had been edited and changed in a certain part where a couple of jokes were taken out because they were considered too offensive. And I remember that moment, and I remember looking back on it and thinking, okay, so I guess there's not going to be any more of like Knocked Up or Super Bad or any of that.
Nothing's
sort of,
going to be funny anymore.
Well, not that type. There's going to be no more Tropic Thunder or Blades of Glory or, any of that sort of thing. That era now is done. And that was the one because it happened between when it was released and whenever it was I saw it that second
Blu-ray
time.
hit or whatever,
I think it was even before then. And it had been changed so that this one, and I was like, wait a minute. He didn't say that. He said something else. And realized, that's what happened. They took it out because it was too offensive. Yeah, that's why I also remember that. Really funny, apparently too funny.
Freaking Zach Gandolfus. What's his
Galifianakis.
Galifianakis. I mean,
Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, that put him on the map for me. Like him.
By the way,
that movie was amazing.
Mark, you have got to see Between Two Ferns.
Yeah, Between Two Ferns. I was going to say.
Yes, I have seen a few.
Pretty good.
Oh well, you should know them. And Baskets. Baskets is a great series.
I haven't seen Baskets or whatever.
I love Baskets. Baskets.
Okay. What else did you see, Kelly, from the list?
I skipped over ones that I had actually seen. Like I'd seen The Accountant. I'd seen Hot Fuzz rather.
Hot Fudge. I like that better.
I did see District 9, and I saw. You guys were curious about the District 9 thing, and I had seen it, and I was not a big fan.
Really?
I really wasn't. I mean, there were elements I liked, but overall the
storyline. Just stop talking now.
Yeah. Wow. You were going up in estimation, and then suddenly, you stumbled and just fell right into the curb.
Yeah, Kelly's like, you know what? I don't like ice cream and hot fudge and delicious food. I think I'll stay over here with my Brussels sprouts.
Kelly fell into the curb carrying his hot fudge sundae, broke all his teeth, and is crying now on the side of the street. Yes.
Ow.
No, so what I have teed up to see is Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, you haven't seen that? Oh, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, I want to.
Oh yeah.
If he didn't like District 9, don't think he's gonna like that.
I'd really like to hear your opinion on Mad Max Fury Road when it's done, because there's some interesting takes on that film that I love.
Your mic, boy.
Yeah, you're doing it. Your mic's doing that thing again.
Boy, I'm gonna drive.
And I found that T-34 movie that you referenced, Mark. I didn't watch it yet, but I'm interested. I might not get to it over the next couple of days. It might be a next week thing. And then The Endless that Rich recommended. I got to see that.
Good film.
And did you say you had seen The Raid?
Yeah, I had seen Raid. I saw that a while back. Jake and I watched that. Okay. That was pretty good. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What about Dredd?
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
Oh,
it's
you need
very
to see
similar
Dredd.
to the Raid in setup, in that
Very similar.
These
Very
cops are trapped in a confined place with all of the gang members.
Oh, okay.
So it is essentially the same movie, but one of them has martial arts dudes and the other one has Judge Dredd.
Yeah, it's Carl
Okay.
Urban playing the greatest Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And that movie is so beautifully shot for the type of movie that it is. You know what I mean? Like, that cinematography has no business being in such a action-y type movie, but it is beautifully shot. You're gonna
a crappy 1980s comic series turned into a beautifully cinematically shot film. Cinematography.
Yes. They make good pictures.
It's so good I couldn't find the word.
I will say, I feel like the Terminalist owes me time back so that I can go back and watch these other things. And actually,
it's not that bad.
You should write them a sternly worded letter. And
I will. I will.
I honestly think
Dear
it's Chris
author,
Pratt's
I hate
best
this.
performance. It's his best dramatic performance.
Of
Well,
his
again,
entire
I
career.
never had an issue with Chris Pratt or his performance of the.
Oh, I did.
In the thing. It was more about like what they had him do.
I think he was
Hey, you're
better
the
than
actor.
Andy
that's a
Dwyer.
different-
That's a different
story.
He was doing the thing. Kelly's problem is the fact that they had him do the thing because that thing was dumb.
Yeah.
The story was your issue.
Right.
And I'm sorry, can somebody explain to me really quick, where did they get so many suppressors, and where the hell did he get 2 claymores to strap to the guy as a bomb at the end?
Well, they did what Dick Marcinko did. They stole him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're giving those things away, Kelly. I got like 7 of them right here.
See, here they
I'm
are.
I'm tripping over claymores left and right.
Tax
It's crazy
stamps on
around here.
everyone. Everyone has a tax stamp.
All the paperwork.
Yeah.
I had issues. I feel they should have just stayed with the crazy,
The book is not the same. The book is much briefer in its explication.
Does he end up killing his best friend at the end of it?
Not really. Not really. It's kind of amorphous at the end.
Well, I mean, was his best friend a villain at the end? Did he?
Yeah.
How do you? Okay.
Yeah.
See, then it's no good. That trope, since whenever we talked about that, Mark, I can't remember what movie that was. Probably The Fugitive or something. It was right around there. Where it like struck us, and we were like, "Oh my God!" I've learned, if anything in here, kill the first person who tries to help you in any situation like that, because that's the person who.
His friend was named Ben.
You're out of jail. What can I do to help you? Oh, you should have said that.
His friend was named Ben, right? That was his friend,
Yeah,
Ben
yeah.
Edwards. Yeah.
That was.
But it's not the same as the. It's not like that.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I understand.
He's the bad guy. That's the thing.
I understand. I figured it out in the first 10 minutes too. I mean, I could see. I was like, okay.
Just because he's a bad guy doesn't mean he's a bad guy.
Yeah. As soon as Ben drives up to pick him up when he arrives, he just guns him down.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Cuts to the chase.
Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Wreck-It Ralph, Kelly, add that to your list.
Wreck-It Ralph, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, Dredd's definitely should be like pushed forward. Dredd's excellent.
Okay,
Yeah,
would
Dredd
you
Mad Max
rather
Fury
watch
Road.
Dredd or Wreck-It Ralph?
Dredd.
Okay.
100%.
I would play
Wreck-It
both
Ralph.
of them at the same time.
And watch neither.
Yeah. Get 2 screens and then read Terminal List while watching all of them.
No. You have
Yes.
one of them. You have one of them on TV. The other one you project onto the TV screen.
So
And
they're
then-
superimposed.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
for each eye.
And then read the book at the same time.
And make sure you pin your eyes open like a Clockwork Orange and scream.
So yeah.
I'm
More
glad
movie
you watched
watching
all
to do.
that, Kelly.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you watched
Yeah,
all
man.
that, man.
I'm glad I watched
Cabin in the
everything
Woods
except
is
Terminal.
particularly gratifying to me. I love Cabin in the
It
Woods.
really was. It really was. Cabin in
Right.
the Woods was great. I really did enjoy
Yeah,
that.
I loved how that like explained every horror movie ever.
Yeah.
And tied up all the
Mhm.
tropes into one like fun little story. Like to me, like that was a.
I like
that
when
is
they
one
kept
of my,
the old.
That's probably my favorite horror movie, just because it's really funny. It's not
Yeah.
particularly horror-ish,
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
but it has all the tropes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I like how they
No.
made fun of the old guy at the gas station.
Yes.
Where they kept leaving him on speakerphone.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
right.
See, all
Loud
that
speaker.
stuff. That's the thing. If you make a movie or a story that subverts, not even subverts, but just does away with all of those expectations, all those tropes, you can really have something special there. And that was a movie that I think really did that, really exemplified that.
Yeah.
It was so, and Mark, as far as that not being a horror movie, really, I think maybe our group has been a bit maybe skewed
desensitized.
by
maybe. Well, for me, The Thing is a Christmas movie, so maybe
right. That's exactly right. Yeah, but I'm thinking when they go to the subterranean complex.
It's pretty horrible.
But it's usually played more for horrible comedy.
Yeah, it was
like, I'm gonna hit this big red button so that all the SWAT team guys get eaten by all these horrible things, and the guy's like, I always wanted to see a mermaid or a merman or whatever, and then of course he gets killed by one, and so it's always very, there's an edge of humor. Dark comedy. It's dark humor.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen this. So I actually have the making of Cabin in the Woods, which goes into they go into all the boxes and they show what all the monsters are. There's a lot of stuff in there that you just don't see because it's a half a second or a quarter second. Check that out. It's really interesting the way they designed what the tropes were of all. Each of those monsters is a trope. So
I did really watch it, and I bought into it at the beginning, but then it took this hard left about halfway through. And he was taking on the FBI. I just couldn't do it, Rich. So.
I just like the fact that they couldn't get the Japanese to do what they were supposed to
kill the kid.
All those little girls are like, yay, singing a song.
Let's sing to the frog.
I know.
I love
capture the demon and put him in a frog. But you know what? I could see that movie.
Normally they'd be very bloodthirsty.
That was, by the way, that was one of my favorite scenes when the little girls did their song.
I know.
The monster
we turned it into a frog. What are you doing?
And then they all pick up the frog. They're all happy. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
And they're all in the control room like you're useless.
Him MFing them as they've done that.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much, guys. We've been going for quite a bit now, and thank you very much, Kelly. I'm very eager.
To see
what you think about some of that other stuff. Do please. I would think Mark and Rich would say put this at the top of your list. Please check out Love, Death, and Robots. I would love to see.
Oh yeah.
Your thoughts on that, because each of those is very short.
Above them, to be sure.
You can watch Love, Death, and Robots. You can watch Love, Death, and Robots.
Dredd.
Piece at a time.
Just like in the movies, when Mark tries to help you like that, understand that all of that is right. Yes, he's trying to shove you into that curb and break your teeth again. So
I'm hugging you, but I'm hitting you.
So
yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Now get out.
This concludes our Speak Nerd and Enter broadcast.